It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics. We are the show! You want to know? It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is running at 617-297-8388. Appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and we try to incorporate it into the conversation and the station streaming 24/7 on the TuneIn app. But I'm also streaming the show on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. So that's X and Facebook and Twitch TV, as well as LinkedIn profile and Rumble channel. Also to the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel as well. So multiple ways to listen and to watch. So we do have a lot, as usual, to get into this show today. We only have an hour. So let's get to it. Today's theme is a lot of imploding narratives and the left's absolute lack of accountability in a lot of things here. I mean, it's a disaster on every front, from political hypocrisy to media hoaxes to the absolute joke that is our immigration system under the previous administration. And let's start with Jasmine Crockett. Wow. The up-and-coming face of the Democratic Party. That's right. She's coming in the top polling when they say who's the future, who's the face of the party, right? And whether they like it or not, see, over the weekend, she took the stage at a human rights campaign. So let all of that sink in, right? Human rights campaign. She's at that event, and she let loose here, calling Texas Governor Greg Abbott Hot Wheels. Now, I don't know what's worse, the insult itself or the fact that she actually thought people would buy her excuse, because she's claiming she wasn't referring to Abbott's wheelchair, but rather his policy of moving migrants into liberal cities. Now, when Governor Abbott was, I think, 26, don't hold me to this, about 26-year-old, he was in a horrible accident. He was out jogging, and he's been in a wheelchair ever since. So referring to him as Hot Wheels isn't exactly within, I would say, the human rights campaign spirit right there. And she's trying to say she was referring to the wheels on the buses that take people, immigrants, to blue cities. That's how they're spinning that. So come on, lady. We are not stupid. Social media receipts don't lie here, because she's been liking posts calling Abbott Hot Wheels since 2021. That's long before the busing program even started. But of course, when the backlash came, right, suddenly it was everyone else who misunderstood her. That's pretty much a very classic Democratic move there. Insult, deny, deflect, and then play the victim. Speaking of things imploding in real time, how about this Atlantic's latest dumpster fire, right? They tried to break this massive scandal, claimed that they had proof that Trump's top officials were leaking, quote, classified war plans over Signal, the encrypted messaging app. Why they're using that, that's a whole nother discussion, maybe another show. But yeah, except there were, first of all, no classified war plans, none. And it took less than 24 hours for that hoax to unravel. Trump's team used approved channels to discuss operations against Iran-backed Houthi terrorists. But because the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, yes, the same guy who peddled the fake Trump called soldiers suckers and losers story, that guy, well, he got his hands on some basic non-classified messages, and he tried to spin it into national security scandal. And then, boom, it fell apart. Even anti-Trump media figures are now admitting there's nothing there. And just another case of the media trying to create a narrative where one doesn't exist. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that actually affects your daily life. The border, because, folks, it is still a disaster. Megyn Kelly You remember her? Well, she said what a lot of us, I think, were thinking. She flat out admitted on her podcast this week that she doesn't give, about due process for illegal immigrants. And I get that because they're trying to talk as if they are already American citizens that have all of the rights and benefits of American citizenship, but they don't. When they've entered the country illegally, they are fleeing from the law. There are criminals, criminalians, if you want. And where was Laken Riley's due process when she was murdered by an illegal alien? Where's the due process for every American victim of crime committed by people who shouldn't even be here? I know that sometimes the response to that is, well, we've got people who commit horrible crimes in the country. I don't understand that thought process. I don't know if that's a justification. I don't understand what your point is by that. But maybe the response to that is, yeah, we do. We don't need to import people illegally or allow the illegals to come in and do these horrific crimes that we already have to worry about our own citizens committing. So where was Laken Riley's due process? Trump has taken action here using the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport violent gang members like Trendy Aragua immediately. The result, over 200 criminals deported in just one day. But what happened next? A liberal judge tried to stop it. Judge James Bossberg actually tried to halt the deportations and even suggested that these flights already in the air should be turned around. That's wielding some power I don't think you exist, or that you possess, I should say. So are you kidding me? And then you've got Judge Patricia Millett comparing this to how Nazis were treated under the Aliens Act. Folks, this is how insane the left has become on this issue. They are so desperate to fight Trump, they're rather, protect violent criminals than American citizens. And you know what ties all of these stories together? The double standard, the hypocrisy, the idea that Democrats and the media can say and do whatever they want and never be held accountable. But when Republicans, even Trump's strongest officials, act within the law, they're attacked, smeared, sabotaged even. Well, folks, we're not playing that game anymore. We are going to take your calls coming up. We'll take them at 508-871-7000. Tell me what you think about these stories. And do you buy Jasmine Crockett's excuse? Should Megyn Kelly be canceled for telling the truth about due process? And how do we hold media accountable when they push hoaxes like that, like The Atlantic just did? You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And then also coming up in the second segment here, we're going to be joined by Anne-Marie Rogers and some other guests. And this is really, and we're going to hear about this. But Anne-Marie and her husband, they lost their son, Jake, to suicide in 2022. And out of their heartbreak, they found a way to make a difference. They started the Jacob Rogers Memorial Pickleball Tournament, an event that has already raised over $40,000 to support mental health education through the SHINE initiative. The organization is doing critical work, educating students and parents, as well as teachers and even businesses, on how to recognize the signs of mental health struggle and remove that stigma that keeps too many people from getting the help that they need. So the third annual tournament is coming up on May 10th in Northborough. And today we'll talk about how you can support this cause, whether by playing, donating, or becoming a sponsor. Playing might be fun, guys. We'll also dive into some of the hard-hitting facts about youth mental health today and how the SHINE initiative is making an impact in schools across central Massachusetts, and what more we need to do to reach young people before it's too late. So stick with us, folks. This is an important one. Coming up next will be Anne-Marie Rogers, joins me, share her story, her mission, and how we can all be part of a solution. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000 to join it. Ted A behind the glass, flying the board. He'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. Thank you, Ted. And you can also text in at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And don't forget that we are streaming 24/7 on the TuneIn app. You can take us anywhere. If you don't have the app, it does take only seconds to download it. Do me a favor, punch in WCRN. You're going to see our really cool logo. And then you just like that. We know you're there, and then we're very easy to find. And I see some people are joining us on the stream, but you can also watch us live on X and Facebook at Joe Mangiacotti Show, LinkedIn, Twitch TV, also on Rumble on the Joe Mangiacotti channel. And then later the show is loaded up to Twitch TV, the new streaming channel. And also coming up by Friday, we'll drop this week's edition of the weekly report from the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. I'm a senior fellow there, and it's a weekly TV show, which also airs on ff.org, on Rumble, Twitch TV, and on the AUN TV networks. But those stations are terrestrial, but they're all out in Western United States. There's 12 towers between Nevada and Northern California, Oregon, that kind of thing. So it really won't help you here, but Twitch TV can. And we do carry the audio on the weekends here on AM 830 WCRN, so you can do that as well. We'll also talk a little more about Jasmine Crockett's thing, Megyn Kelly's, the Atlantic scandal. We'll get in more details with that. But that's after we're joined by Anne Marie and some other guests to talk about this. Well, first, the Memorial Pickleball Tournament coming up and the whole Shine initiative there as well. So that's all coming up after the first break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. And again, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. And that's how you can get in to the conversation. So we got a few seconds before we get into this, the break here, about a minute. But Jasmine Crockett, she's a Democrat from Texas. And when she was at the HRC event and she referred to Greg Abbott as Hot Wheels, she's now trying to spin this, claiming it had nothing to do with Abbott's wheelchair, but instead referenced his policies on migrant relocation. Problem is she has this pretty big history of engaging in the posts with the same nickname for Abbott. All right, I have a caller. We are seconds away. Mark, hold on through the break. We'll go to the phones on the other side. Yeah, we're going to have to take our first break here at a quarter after the hour on AM 830 WCRN. Join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. But we have to come back on the other side. Mark, stick there. We'll go right to the phones. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance company specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we
Hey guys, were you all on?
Yes.
Clients make better.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're streaming on the social, not on the radio station.
Okay.
All right, so who's who?
All right, so I'm Anne Marie Rogers.
Okay, Anne Marie.
I'm Suzanne Cox.
Suzanne, I like your background.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't
5 seconds ago.
That was
5
awesome.
seconds ago.
And there's a
Oh.
blank one here. Somebody doesn't
So that's
have
my
a name.
husband, Chris. I don't know where he is. He's sitting.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Hi, Chris.
Can
Do
you
you have
hear
a
but
camera?
can't see you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my webcam.
So
Put it on.
Sharice Murphy just texted me that she has something come up and that she won't be able to join us in the radio. But if you want any information from them to post, I can send that to you. I did send you some information, but so that's too bad that she can't make
Okay.
it.
Well, I'm going to go back because we'll be coming back in a second here, right? So
Okay.
We'll go around. I think I got to take a call first, and then we'll do it.
Sure. Okay.
All right, cool. Ted, I need sound. Ted, can I have audio?
Our guests get home safely after celebrating your special day. For custom wedding or event transportation, call AA Limousine Services, 508-791-9100, 508-791-9100, or visit us online at aatransportation.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, folks, that we do stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, and you can watch and listen to the show on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI. That's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch TV, or on Rumble. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Before we go to our guest and topic, let me jump to the phone real quick because Mark has been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
I think what's his name there, the head of Homeland Security, what's his name, Walsh?
Yes, Walsh.
Yeah, he's so incompetent, he should be fired. But, that being said, truth or consequences. So if you fired a guy, okay, you're going to have the domino effect. Click, 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 click. And they're going to go to after, if they're successful with him, they're going to go after the next one, the next one, and the next one, and the next one ad infinitum. So I understand why Trump did what he did and kept them on the books.
Yeah, I don't think this warranted the termination or the resignation yet, not in the big picture of things. Thank you, Mark, for the call. Greatly appreciated it. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. If you're joining us and you're on the streaming, you're already seeing that I'm being joined by some guests here in studio. And this has to do with, it's going to be Anne Marie and her husband, Chris, and we're also Suzanne Cox, all joining us here. And this has to do, well, let me actually go around, folks, and introduce everybody. So Anne Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And
Can
let's
you hear
go
me
around.
okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can adjust this. When you guys talk a little bit, we can do a little bit of adjustment. So Anne Marie, Suzanne, or is it Susan or Suzanne?
Suzanne.
And Chris? Okay.
Yep, hi.
Welcome to the show. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the history here. Well, tell me about the initiative and what's coming up with the tournament in Northborough.
Go ahead.
Oh, so you mean the reason behind it?
Yeah, about your son's story,
Right.
and how did you get from that tragedy to this?
Okay, so Jake died 3 years ago, March 3rd. He was 20 years old. He did struggle with mental health issues. He was also adopted, which he had like abandonment and shame issues. And, he's been in counseling since first grade. So we did, everything that we thought we could do to help him. And I guess it just wasn't enough. And I just started playing pickleball. So all my pickleball friends was just so supportive. And they're like, let's do a tournament. I'm like, sure. And no idea how to do that. Luckily, Suzanne knows, she's the brains behind the operation. Chris and I focus on getting the sponsorships and donations and the raffle baskets to raffle off at the function.
So the first tournament was 2 years ago?
It was 3 years ago. It was May of 23.
Okay.
Yep.
And this will be the third one then?
This will be the third one. So Jake died in March of 2022.
Okay.
So
are you that the being adopted played a role in his, I'm assuming, depression?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain because I don't see it because I just was so happy to adopt him. And so
how old was he when you guys adopted?
He was like
Chris?
2 hours old. We
Oh,
were
really?
there at the hospital, right? So
Okay.
he never really knew his family. But anyway, I think it's an abandonment issue. His birth mother had another child or two other children, and he knew that. So it was kind of like, why did you give me up for adoption?
The way he fell was in between different dads, and so it just wasn't the right time for her. She thought to take care of him, so that's why she did give him up for adoption. But like Anne Marie said, he had a lot of anger issues as a young child, so not normal. So we had him tested for went through, they call it a psych testing, and they came back and they said they found out that he had a very high IQ and they should be in all advanced classes. But other than that, they couldn't find anything, but it was still, that anger was still there. We couldn't figure it out. So Anne Marie did some research and found the Attachment Institute in Worcester, and they specialize, as Anne Marie talks about, abandonment, loss of a parent through death or divorce, or in Jake's case, adoption, which kind of blew us away. We didn't think that would be something, but as you think about it, in his mind, the therapist said that he looked at it as if he was no good, as Anne Marie mentioned, because his birth mother rejected him. So he had shame, but he did have years of therapy, and we thought he had gotten past it. And he was progressing and graduated high school and had a good job, and he was starting to kind of move through life and mature. But then he had kind of a setback, like out of the blue, and a shock to us. He used to share everything about his life, but he never mentioned that he considered suicide. So we were absolutely shocked, and that's just kind of and unfortunately, we had somebody else in our community that just went through the exact same thing last week, last Thursday. Another
Sorry to hear that.
Right. We also adopted the same issues, and we were kind of trying to support each other before all this, and we got a call Friday. So it's something that's out there, and we just wanted to take that grief and be, as you mentioned, be proactive and go back, Joe, and try to do whatever we can to get the word out. We're very open and talk quite a bit about it, because being back in the day, people didn't talk about it.
Nobody talked about it. And people, when this happened, I mean, I remember when I was a younger man, it would, it would say after a long illness in the paper, right? In the obituary, it would just say after a long illness.
Right.
Let me ask you, because I think an obvious question, people listening to us right now are thinking, well, when did he find out he was adopted? Was this something he knew from the moment that he started talking and learning? Did you let him know his history at, a particular age? So when did he understand he was adopted?
Yep. So he did. So I have a big family, and a lot of cousins his age, and they had a ball, and we did, as soon as he could understand and talk, like you said, we told him, because that's what we were advised to, because you wouldn't want him to find out at 13. Oh, what? I'm adopted. So, and I know that he loved us, and he knew that we loved him. It was just like he just couldn't get past that, and it's just too bad, because adoption's a wonderful thing.
He has that abandonment issue of
right.
I was given up, but he has the counteraction that you chose him,
right?
And but that wasn't enough.
Right.
He still had these issues.
And
when did he first? How old was he when he first kind of realized he was this anger? Was it always since childhood, or did it develop?
Yes, I would say like first grade.
Really? Okay.
I mean, he would hold it together in school, and then as soon as he came home, it, of course, I got the brunt of it, the one he loves the most, right? But that's okay. And so the anger issues were like mostly elementary and first part of middle school, and then it got better.
Okay. And then just it got obviously the point that he didn't think he could deal with it anymore.
Right. I mean, it's so funny because he had a good, like Chris said, he had a good job, and he had a girlfriend, and he didn't have a ton of friends. He just, I don't know why. I mean, he was such a great kid. So
Sure.
it's tough to understand what was going through his mind, but
Sure.
Yeah, there was something that he had a little bit of rejection, I think, in a relationship, and that I think, not rejection, but just some signals. So he just took that to the next level in his
because
mind,
of the abandonment sensitivity already existing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Fine.
That he was no good.
Well,
right.
I'm very sorry for your loss, and this is
Thank
a very
you.
difficult thing for parents. I mean, a child predeceasing parents is probably the most unnatural thing that can happen.
Right.
And not that
Right.
losing our parents were ever easy either, but it's certainly against the natural order of things. So your friends, family, they went through this, I assume, with you as well.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. We've had so much support from everybody. I mean, I just can't thank everybody enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you guys already into pickleball? I mean, was this something you picked up at that point in your lives, or I mean, obviously.
So I started probably a year before Jake died, and then like our group that came together, I knew a couple of women that I worked with, but like Suzanne, like I never would have met these people if we hadn't played pickleball. We'd always say that to each other, like we never would have been friends. But I don't know if you know about the pickleball community, but it's quite large.
Yeah, and growing. I mean, we'll
Right.
be at a tournament as well in next week, I guess, and
Oh,
we'll
in
certainly
Ben's, yeah.
support this one too. But it's amazing the growth of this sport. I guess sport.
Right. This is sport.
has taken off and spread across the country, and we're seeing the conversion of tennis courts to pickleball courts, and we're seeing companies pop up all over the place. And so, Suzanne Cox, are you the pickleball aficionado here? You have the court?
Aficionado. So I work with when this happened and the idea for a tournament came up, and as a way to possibly fund programs for more kids that may be in Jake's shoes, to help them maybe have additional supports, or at least understand how to get help when they needed it. Anne-Marie brought up the idea of, amongst many of us women, to do this tournament as a way to fund the Shine Initiative, who works with area youth to try to destigmatize mental health issues and kind of put it on par with young people seeing their mental health as important as their physical health, so that when they are struggling, they'll reach out. And I just said, oh my gosh, I'd love to. I have a special needs child who struggles as well, in a different way, but totally can understand the thought of young adults and teens and young adults struggling. So what can I do? So we started this, and I took on more the role of running the actual the tournament part, because that's my background is coaching pickleball. So, and it just turned out to be a great collaboration between us, as well as a whole bunch of other players who were incredibly supportive, reached out to the town and got their support to join us in this venture and support us with facilities, the town of Northborough.
Okay, so you needed to go find the facilities.
Yes.
So you didn't have. So this was come up with the idea. Let's go get the facilities.
Yeah.
Opposed to we have. All right, I got it.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
And
hold you here. Can you all stay on through the break for the next segment? All right. So we're gonna do that real quick. We're gonna take our mid-show break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. When we come back, we'll also get into how people can participate and get involved in this and things of that nature, folks. So stick with us here. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Back in 2 and 10. Stick with us.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We've got partly to mostly cloudy skies today, with a slight chance for an afternoon shower quickly coming through. Most of your day is going to be dry. And we're looking at highs in the lower 50s in a lot of towns tonight. We'll fall back into the 30s, and I'll take you up to about 50 degrees tomorrow. Your Thursday plans under mostly sunny skies. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Girton Graphics and Awards has been the name in custom apparel, t-shirts, embroidery, trophies, and awards. Whether you need custom t-shirts for your business, sports teams uniforms, thousands of personalized promotional products, or trophies that truly shine, Girton Graphics and Awards has you covered. Operating right here in Worcester, Girton Graphics and Awards takes pride in their craftsmanship, unbeatable prices, and top-notch service. Their reputation, often imitated, never equal. Stop by the showroom on South Bridge Street next to Coney Island Hot Dogs and see why Girton Graphics and Awards has been the trusted choice for over 50 years. Call 508-754-0200, 508-754-0200. Visit GirtonGraphics.com, GUERTIN Graphics.com, or swing by today. Girton Graphics and Awards. We're still the one.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Wednesday edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. And you could join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Get you into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. And, of course, we're streaming on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. It's on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and that's also on Rumble. Joining us is Anne Marie, as well as Suzanne, and the husband, right? We got the husband here too, and we're talking about the Shine Initiative, and this is all due to your son's suicide, and you realize, because this is something it sounds like, and tell me if I'm not reading this right, you knew that it was a long-term thing, that he had the anger issues. You knew that something was going on, but at any time did you ever think that his solution was going to be this final solution?
No, not at all.
It was a complete shock.
Okay. And what is it that you can do, we the people, we the community? I mean, what are the signs? What are the things you got to look for? Is it always going to be a surprise? And do parents maybe sometimes deny the signs because they don't even want to think about what could happen here?
They could. I mean, I know that, of course, when I'm driving, I always have conversations in my head with Jake, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had pursued that a little bit further. And what did he mean by that? I mean, you're always second guessing yourself. And I just think the more kids open up and talk about it, I think they'll be in a better spot. Okay. And so my brother organized the Out of the Darkness Walk. So Jake died in March. So that September, we had our first Out of the Darkness Walk, which is at Polar Park, suicide prevention. And I met one of the volunteers works for the Shine Initiative. And that's when we were coming up with the idea of the tournament. I'm like, well, let's do Shine, because it's central Massachusetts. It's local. It's not NAMI or anything like that. The national, they can really use the money. And what they do is they go into schools and communities and work with students and young adults. Like Suzanne said, to talk about your mental health, destigmatize it, and just, everyone has a feeling of loss and helplessness that they need to talk about. And
is there a stigmatization that comes with you, the parents, of some of this situation? Do you guys feel like there's a stigma that goes with you, or any parents?
I don't feel it. I don't feel that. But just to go back, Joe, you asked a good question about what are the signs, maybe. And again, looking back, and actually, it was something we were well aware of. We, as part of the therapy for Jake early on, was one of the therapists. Just he was kind of a loner, and so they saw that as a possible issue. So we actually had him with another therapist that closer to his age, that just kind of be there, another young adult to kind of talk to kind of have a conversation every few weeks. I think it was Emery. And so we did identify that as an issue. And I would say that would be a sign if a child is kind of isolating themselves. Right. That's something you'd want to, my opinion, you want to intervene and try to get them more socially integrated. And then that's something
that's going to be a very difficult thing, guys, because we live now in a time where all of us, not just our youth, our kids are, but adults are committed and on the screens, right? The video games, they're on their phones all the time. I think as a whole, we've seen less interaction, and socialization has evaporated in a lot of ways. And of course, we saw This either further aggravated during the COVID years because
Right.
we didn't have school and we didn't have any kind of social things, and poor kids. I mean, they lost their prom, right, and their graduations from high school and things of that nature. So the way we live life today, how do you know that somebody's a loner anymore? It's like all adolescents are loners if you go by the fact that they're fine in their room by themselves because they got their devices for hours on end. So what are the things you gotta look at and should be a red flag for the parents?
Well, that's to your point. That's the one thing that I guess was kind of, we felt good about was that he was into computer gaming, and so he would play online. So he'd be talking to literally kids from all over the world, and we're like, and, laughing.
The illusion of a lot of interaction and
right.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like when we were growing up where he was, to your point, going out to the movies with, the guys and gals from the neighborhood or from school. Like and we,
of course, in our generation, right? We had the forts, right? And the woods, and we left on our BMX bikes for early in the morning, and we came home at the street lights.
Right.
And in those days, we didn't have tracking devices on us,
i.e.
smartphones. You know what I'm saying? So parents just assumed we could handle whatever we were doing. You came home, and if you got hurt, they said walk it off. But those were different times. Before we run out of time, I do want to move to first of all, the Shine Initiative. You chose them to support with this. And they do great work, like you were saying. So let's talk about the actual pickleball tournament. Let's review the date, and then what are the different ways that people might be hearing this that want to support the Shine Initiative, want to get involved. They can play, they can sponsor, they can donate. I mean, what is it that are you maxed out on the players? Do you need players?
So if I can jump in on that one. So right now we have spots for 96 players. And even though it just opened 2 weeks ago or less than 2 weeks ago, we only have 9 spots left. So the support from the area has been tremendous as far as participation in playing to support this great cause and to support youth programming. What we could use again is sponsorships from if you have a company or an individual who would like to be part of sponsorships. That would be a real boom to add more money and general individual donations as well. If you go to the website, the Jacob Rogers Pickleball website, the organization, it can direct you to some of the sponsorship information. The wonderful companies who have already joined the list for this year, as well as past years' sponsorships. This year as well, when you register via Northborough Recreation, you can see there's a donation ability as well. So we're looking for 9 additional players. So definitely, if you like pickleball and you want to have a great fun day, as well as bring more help to youth in our area who can use the support that the Shine Initiative and some new programs that we're trying to work out in each of the towns bring. Please join us. And if not, the corporate sponsorships would be lovely, and any individual sponsorships. All that information is on their website. I don't know if you share that on your stream, jacobrogerspickleball.org, and that will lead you to registration as well as the Shine Initiative.
Yeah, we will, and I'll also post that, folks, on my social media so that people can find it there. But the website is Jacob Rogers Pickleball.
.org, yes.
.org, okay, great. And is that year round? Do you have that website going, or just
we
when
do?
You're doing it? Okay,
no,
so
year round.
All year long,
and then,
people can check in on that. And are you sharing information throughout the year on there? And is it always anybody that donates? Is it always going to the Shine Initiative?
So there's historically, yes, the last 2 years we've given all the people who run it, myself, Anne-Marie, Chris, all the people who are part of making this a reality are all volunteers. So we don't have any payments to corporations to run this pickleball tournament for us. We all give our time. Every one of us is 100% a volunteer. So that way we can ensure that everybody's donations via playing or sponsorships go to programs This year, we're doing in addition to Shine, the town of Northborough Rec, since they're our partner in this tournament, is coordinating with the youth development group in Northborough to put together another program, to start a program here, similar to how Shine reaches into middle school. So we'll continue with Shine, but we're also trying to grow some more opportunities in the same area of youth mental health. So can't stress enough
Well, first of all, you said
that
there were 90, so you started with 96 positions to play in the tournament. You only have 9 left.
Right.
correct.
Okay,
With 2
that's,
months.
I mean, that's a lot of people playing pickleball, man.
Yeah, and
You got a lot
it's
of support
just
that day. So they all pay,
people
whether
are
they pay a fee to play, and that
correct.
goes to the pickleball place, and then the balance will go to the Shine.
No, there's no paying the pickleball
Oh,
place.
they're
So
volunteering
we
the
don't
courts.
pay anybody for the courts. We don't
Oh
pay
my goodness.
for the
Yeah.
people running it, the software. None of that is paid for. Unlike a normal tournament where a lot of it goes to facilities or the software to run the tournament, or the pickleball director, which
Sure.
is the role I
No,
play.
that's
None
fantastic.
of that occurs here, so that we can streamline all the software I wrote. It's just our own writing stuff.
Got it.
The facilities is collaboration with the town of Northborough has donated the facilities for us.
Let me, before
and-
we run out of time on this segment, let me ask you maybe more to Anne-Marie and to Chris is, if you are a parent right now and you're concerned because you don't like what you're seeing in your child, and it might be some of the things we've touched on, what's your advice to them? Who should they reach out to? Should they go to their family physician? Should they reach out to a Shine? What should they do, if you could give them some advice right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think they might, depending on their age, you might want to start with the school psychologist and to see what they're seeing in school. And they may have recommendations about therapists in the area. I know that Shine goes into the school, but they handle that with administration, that type of thing. They're not therapists. So I would start. What do you think? I mean, I think the school helped us try to find the right person.
Right. Yep. And then in our case, we did the research, and when we did the research
for the later.
Right. But it could be all different issues why the child but the biggest thing is to have the conversation, to find help. And if people are stuck and they do need help getting resources, we've actually had some people come to us. We've gotten them connected through Shine, so they can reach out to us as well.
Yeah. All right, let's roll the web address again one more time: jacobrogers.org, or is it Jacob Rogers? Pickleball.org. And that's all year long location, and you can sign up in one of those 9 positions that are still there. Maybe we only have 7 or 6 now. I don't know what we're out there. That could happen. We're sponsored, but thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for Suzanne for all the work that she's done. And
yes,
Suzanne. So we appreciate
all right, guys.
It's team effort. A
right.
lot of wonderful women.
We'll be back on the other side.
Are you looking for a flexible, rewarding career that lets you work on your own terms? WCRN 830 AM, a 50,000 watt power.
Okay. Yeah, we're in commercial. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Enjoy the freedom to build your book of business. Whether you need to work mother's hours or prefer to structure your own schedule, WCRN offers the flexibility to fit your lifestyle. As a WCRN account rep, you'll collaborate with local businesses, community leaders, and innovative entrepreneurs, helping them reach a vast audience across New England. Plus, you can even get on the air, adding a personal touch to the station's success. And don't worry, we provide all of the training and guidance you'll need to succeed. If you're ready to tap into your creative side, work independently, and be part of a dynamic team, reach out to myself. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, the general manager here at WCRN 830 AM. Call my direct line at 508-556-4411. Again, that is 508-556-4411. Your next great opportunity is just a call away.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the fourth and final segment on the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. And of course, you can still join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Thank you for Anne-Marie and Chris joining us, as well as Suzanne. And the address for those watching on streaming, which you can do at Joe Mangi Show. That's X or Facebook or Twitch or LinkedIn or even over to Rumble. It's JacobRogersPickleball.org. That's the site. If you'd like to sign up, they did have 9 positions at the beginning of the interview left to play. And that's coming up in just a couple of weeks, folks. So thank you guys for joining that. And again, it's streaming on the bottom of the screen if you'd like to check that out. All right, 508-871-7000. So Megyn Kelly, she was pretty blunt about the issue here when we're coming to this border crisis. Now, the Biden administration, guys, opened the floodgates at the southern border. They allowed just millions upon millions of illegals into the country unchecked, meaning that they're not vetted. Their backgrounds, we really don't know who they are. We certainly don't know their medical, right? And now we have, well, diseases and issues that we thought we had eradicated basically in this country now appearing, or initially mumps or something in West Texas. But a lot of these individuals, they are criminals before they enter the country. So they're coming here in the capacity of a criminal. They're parts of gangs or parts of cartels, including members of the Venezuelan gang Trendiagua, TDA, which is a violent gang, violent criminals. They murder, rape, and terrorize communities. And now they're doing it throughout the United States. And Americans are watching in real time as the judicial system protects illegal migrants over law-abiding citizens. And politicians are doing that too. So Megyn Kelly, her comments saying that she doesn't care about illegal migrants' due process, well, quite frankly, isn't she echoing what many Americans feel right now? And what due process do the rest of us have? Because the whole due process, and this is the irony of this, the due process coming into the country certainly wasn't followed. That's the point. So you cannot break the law and say, oh, there's no due process here. And I mentioned this yesterday. Everyone who's taken into custody has the right of a habeas corpus petitioning, which anybody who feels that they've been wrongly detained by Border Patrol and or ICE can simply file for a habeas corpus. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phone lines. Ken is waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Hello, Joe. We've had about 2 days now to digest the detail behind the whole texting signal Jeffrey Goldberg story. And what I find interesting is many are coming to the conclusion that Jeffrey Goldberg was probably signaled in by the previous administration on a regular basis, invited.
Oh, I see what you said. So that's why when they got their devices and computers, he's already loaded in it.
No, I'm not suggesting. What I'm making is the comparison to the outrage, that he was in when he probably has been in many others prior, because they invited him. So,
Right, but what I'm saying, Ken, stick with me for a second, because at the same time as the story's breaking, and we're going, and guys, I was one of the people that said we communicate with classified or possibly classified information over Signal. That was a bit of a surprise to me. That's like using WhatsApp or Telegram in some ways, right? And we know terrorists use Telegram. But then it was released during the interviews and different press releases that Signal has been considered a authorized app to use, in that, Tulsi Gabbard and Walsh and all these people, when they got these positions, which, have only all happened in the last month or two, when they were given their communication devices, phones and computers, the Signal app was already loaded in the device. So what you're saying to me about that maybe he was on, I'm saying, well, maybe the fact that it was loaded on their device, the contacts also transferred with that, them loading it on the device, say for Tulsi Gabbard. So Jeffrey Goldberg would have been part of the contacts. And I'm saying, I don't think any reporter should be in the contacts list for something that's supposed to be our intelligence agencies chatting.
Yeah, I don't think, and I haven't heard anybody mention that could be the case, because I think each user, you had 12 people or so as part of the chat. And I think each user is responsible for their own list. So that leads to, somehow he got into the call, and there seemed to be some evidence that Waltz had a missing party that he originally assigned, which could suggest somehow a swap out or a misunderstanding. Why Goldberg would be on his list doesn't make sense.
Well, here's the thing, Ken. Everything done electronically like this leaves a trail. There's every keystroke is recorded, everything that happens. So if they really want to look at the path and everything, and they can find. Now, are they going to share it with us? We'll find out, right? What's the transparency level on this? But because all these people have to have been sent some kind of invitation link based on whoever called this chat, right? So who sent the actual invitation? Was it in a group of contacts that you say hit all, or did somebody go down and click everybody in? Or, and this would be interesting, was Goldberg sent the link and invitation into this chat after the initial invitation went out, which would indicate that somebody decided to mess around with things. You know what I mean?
Well, that's where it seems like Waltz was in charge of determining who was part of the group. And so he has people underneath him, and I'm not going to throw out names, but and I don't remember the name actually, but apparently someone among his staff is, potentially at fault to some extent, or, I think as you were potentially insinuating, is that if Goldberg had already gotten into lists, he may have had people with him that found it easier to get onto other people's lists through the process that he had already used.
Yeah.
Who knows? This is all a technology issue. And gee, Willie, isn't there a tech expert that's now working for Trump and has a bunch of staff?
Yeah, Trump has a really good tech support guy, from what I understand. So maybe he can look into it. But let me ask you this before we got to run out of time today, because I also am getting the hit here that the Democrats seem to be thrilled that there's something that they can pay attention to, because I think the media has been sitting here watching all this stuff go on, and most of it all totally polls are with it, proving Trump's doing what he said he was going to do. Whether it's telling countries to play fair with tariffs, it's getting rid of bad criminal element of illegal aliens, all of the things that are going on. It's almost as if the media and the Democrats were waiting for some screw up to really, really jump on, because we heard nothing out of these people. When Hillary Clinton was having an illegal server in her property and using bleach bit and hammers to destroy her devices, we weren't hearing anything like this with the boxes of classified documents in a senator's garage, because he took those stuff when he was senator, not as president. So do you think they're trying to make hay out of this because it's the only thing they could last, kind of sink their teeth into, Ken?
Well, on that theory, what if this wasn't the first time that Goldberg had gotten into one of the Trump administration's discussions, given his access in the past?
Oh, and only decided this time to share that he was watching all this?
So here's my point. it's more in his interest to not expose himself to being privy to this information as a reporter. That's gold for a reporter. They throw around all sorts of rumors to benefit themselves and others. And that here he's now cutting off probably any opportunity to be in the future. But he was willing to do that for the reasons you just described, that, you know what? Our ship is going down so fast. I need something to throw at the other side, bring them down too.
Yeah, it does seem like they were a little bit too happy on this. And, you've got people who are now just so outraged. I mean, especially Swalwell, right? You slept with a Chinese spy, you jamoke. You should not be talking about compromising or security issues, because this is nothing compared to what you did, or the driver, or any of the other, and they weren't upset when. Sorry,
Joe, how about Senator Warner calling for 2 people to be fired? He should look in the mirror for all the things that he's done deep state that's corrupt.
Yeah,
projecting again, huh?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, guys, you're trying to get more mileage out of this thing than I think it has in it. And don't get me wrong, folks. I'm not saying this is not a big deal and this isn't wrong. It's absolutely, was a bonehead move. This was a major breach in protocol in security, and they have got to absolutely find out how that jamoke got onto that chat and plug that hole. Or here's an idea: stop using Signal. Or if you're going to use Signal, start fresh. Don't use somebody else's, contact list or something to that nature. Now, we know that the government has this technology, because there was just a few weeks ago, we were dealing with the story about the NSA employees talking about their gender transition and the genitals and their kinks. And they were using the NSA encrypted chat platforms because they knew they were impenetrable, right? So we know we have the technology. Maybe we shouldn't be using Signal. Maybe we should have another step in this. I don't know, Ken. Final thought before I got to let you go.
Agreed, but the primary issue is finding the mole, which is likely the case that somebody is embedded and created this mess.
I think that's probably going to be closer to what this ends up happening. All right, Ken, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Always some great points. All right, folks, that's going to bring us towards the end of the Wednesday edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, reminding you that the show is always turned into a podcast, which you can get wherever your podcasts are. So check that out, right? Go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Play, you got it, and check that out. And in the meantime, I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock for the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. All right, Joe out, folks.
Headline news, weather.
Okay. Let me see where she is. Oh, Leslie.